in Turkey with all the madness. It's not like they're trying to freeze the currency.
Right. Very interesting.
Yeah, but I think for us, we still have a long way to go.
Okay. And then the CEPLA thing, the agreement. Okay, I'll go with that. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Standing IBTC moving forward.
Business trends beyond the headlines.
Today.
Government policy.
Mike's up.
Macro indices. Market movement. Business Express on Sweet 28.8 in association with Stamping IBTC.
Lagos, welcome to Business Express for today, Thursday, the 16th of August, 2018, and Rotus is poised and ready. Lagos, welcome. Join the conversation by sending a message to WhatsApp. The number is 0809 444 981. Also on Twitter with that hashtag BusinessExpress981, with that hashtag BusinessExpress981 at Smooth91FM. I repeated it so you remember.
Yes.
Also go on YouTube where we're streaming live. Just type in the search box Smooth91FM Lagos. You find us here. And welcome, Muiwa. Good morning.
Thanks, Valentine.
Good morning.
Muiwa,
thank you for having me.
Excellent. Good to have you here. Muiwa Oni of Stanbic IBTC is in with us today. We had so many messages yesterday. I said I would address this one from Frank. He was asking where to track CPs. Frank and anybody else that wants to look at where CPs are trading, you can go on FMDQ and check out the website. We put the steps on. We retweeted it yesterday. I will probably tweet it again. Losses on the exchange. I think it's 8 days now in a row. 35,069 points is where we closed. I think our 52-week low is at 34,846 points. So we're like 200 and something points away from that marker. We had 29 losers, just 12 gainers. Linkage Assurance was the top gainer on the exchange, up by 9.6%. They closed at 68 kobo. UAC Property Development Company down by 10%. They were the top loser, closed at 1 naira 71 kobo. We're still at 360 naira about to the dollar. Muiwa, it's hey, it's an opportunity for people to buy at low prices, but again, your thoughts, man. It's kind of ugly out there with the markets.
It's clearly a tough environment, and I think the reality is that it's not unique to Nigeria.
Right.
So if you look across the board, particularly EM, but now even going to DM markets as well. It's been
sorry for our listeners.
Emerging markets and then developed markets.
Thank you,
so it's literally been a bloodbath, and I think it's linked to what's happening with Turkey, linked to the whole skittishness for emerging markets as a whole, trade wars, all that. Affecting the markets a bit more negatively. And so I think because also Nigeria is far more linked, given the strong foreign participation, we're not immune. And I think one point I keep on making as well is that the domestic institutional investors aren't necessarily taking advantage of this weakness, in the sense that typically you should be buying when markets are low and then taking profit when there's a rally. But most of the time you continue to see a reverse. And so right now, where markets are low, where you're seeing very good companies with improved valuations, you're not necessarily seeing that strong demand on the domestic investor side, because they also unfortunately are concerned about weekly, monthly, or quarterly performance, and there will always be pressure from their own trustees and so on. And so I think that's why you're not necessarily seeing a strong demand from the domestic side, because in spite of the weakness in the market and in spite of foreign investor apathy, you're actually seeing more foreign investor participation still.
Oh yeah.
So whilst you're seeing foreign investors sell into the market, most of the pickup is still by
on their
some
side.
other, still on their side as well.
So you like anything out there? What?
So on the back end side, I like GTB. It's looking more and more attractive. Zenith Bank as well, looking attractive. I think the main point with these institutions as well is that the performance, so the operating performance is still reasonable. So, and the reason I say reasonable is that even once you're not necessarily seeing strong credit growth, so credit is shrinking,
right?
But you're seeing banks improve asset quality, reduce loan loss provisions, figure out a way of driving fees and income. I know quite a number of listeners would like that. That's part of what's driving bank performance. But that's partly what's keeping performance more improved right now, and so year on year earnings are still growing.
All right, so Lagos, remember, so Muiwa likes Zenith, likes GTB. I also like the stocks as well. Just always consult a broker like start making any purchase again for the month of July. Any thoughts as to the deceleration in inflation? I think
11.14%.
Right, from I think 11.2 in July. Muiwa, any thoughts?
So it's a positive trend, and so even though it's slightly above what consensus expected. So if you do a random survey of analysts, they expected 11.1, and it came up slightly above at 11.14. So you'd say it's not that explain I think the central bank's expectations is that at some point this year you'd see single digits, even though they also flagged that going into the end of the year with inflation, with elections coming and increased spending from that, there's clearly upward pressure on inflation. And so our own expectation is that best you see inflation bottom at around 10.7%.
Okay, so still double digits, yeah.
Well, 11.06%. Is there any margin to be excited about?
No, so
is it significant enough?
No, so if I think of where we're coming from, so we're coming from an environment where inflation was almost 8%. Right now, food inflation I think is around 14% or so. Maybe what's a bit frustrating is that in spite of the inflationary pressure that the central bank highlights, I think there's still that realization that purchasing power of the average Nigerian is
still
really criminal. It's strong. And so, and I think that's why there's pressure for wage increases. And in a way, what you're saying is that with wage increases, you'll be introducing inflation as well. So I think it's trying to balance all those together.
That's amazing.
It's interesting stuff.
Your friend Benga Kamu's here.
Yes, Benga, we trust him. Trust Benga.
So 12 banks in Nigeria lent 200 billion to MTN. It goes back to the narrative that the telecom sector was funded by Nigeria, not foreign investment as normally stated. But what is the exposure rate for the banks?
Benga, Benga always preempts all the stories on the show. He reads a lot. We're going to touch on that on Tech Friday tomorrow, so we'll get into that with Taiwan Fisar. But that was big news
Thanks
yesterday.
For that reminder, Rotus. Yes, tomorrow is Friday.
Why
is inflation decelerating but prices remain high?
We'll have to explain this thing. It's
so it's rising. It's just that the rate of increase is
slowing down. So
so it's not like you're saying prices, which is inflation, and in those environments you might not necessarily see rising prices like you'd see here, but to Roto's point, it's rising, but not you're not seeing a very strong acceleration.
Chideze has a question from YouTube. He sends this one, says, Muiwa, what's the current share price of Stanbic IBTC, and also is it currently undervalued?
Muiwa is from Stanbic, and you're gonna ask Muiwa.
Yes, so I think that
oh boy,
put you on the spot.
Yeah, I think for me, what's positive is that I don't cover Stanbic IBTC. And so in terms of giving a view, I won't be able to give a view from that point of view. So I haven't published any.
How does that work?
No,
that's why it's actually easier for me in the sense that there's less pressure from that
exactly. Imagine if Smooth FM was a stock and you're not asking me or you to give you a recommendation on Smooth. But it closed at 50 naira yesterday. That's the stock price that Stanbic closed that. It didn't actually move up or down. So it's one of the stocks that did move. So Stanbic closed at 50 naira yesterday.
Yeah, I think maybe what to add as well is that it hasn't been as volatile as other stocks.
That's the best he can do to sell his market.
before getting to another bank war.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, one more quick point on inflation. This is something I just read randomly. There's an association of haulage operators, which they move different companies in the country. I just read something randomly that they hiked up the costs of moving those goods, and that they said it's about 300 or 400%, and that might filter into imported food prices or clothing and shoes and so on in the latter months of this year. I mean, do you see any major impact from there? Or?
I think there's clearly there's a possibility, but I think there's also that reality acknowledgement from business owners as well, because I think it depends on how sensitive your goods or demand your goods are to price increases, or your sales are to price increases. So if you think as a businessman or an importer, you can still maintain sales in spite of a price increase, then you might see that. But if it's not realistic, if they expect to see pressure, then it's likely that they would absorb the cost instead, and that might not necessarily translate into higher prices for those. But even if it does, I think it still will be in the margins per se. I wouldn't expect it to have a broad-based impact on
prices,
on prices or inflation in general.
And by the way, the Association of Haulage Operators, they said the reason why they're increasing those prices is because of the roads. I mean, the roads have been bad forever, but I guess now they decided because it's affecting how their margins, how they moved goods and everything like that.
Yeah.
We have a message.
Obajimi Adewale says 8 straight days of loss in a row. Rotus, I'm beginning to think the market misses Buhari.
He's still
Really?
still overseas.
It's counting.
Oh, well, Jimmy, thank you for that message. Okay, Muya, real quick. I know we're running out of time here, but there's a headline from Business. The analysts warn that time is running out for the petroleum industry bill. They're saying, of course, with the elections coming up, if they don't pass what's remaining and a new set of legislators come in, that might be squandered, and there's a lot of money has been spent on all these forums and think tanks and everything. Your thoughts as to whether or not this could stall where we are with the PIB?
Yeah, so I think for us, that's one risk we've been highlighting going into this year, that as you approach elections, reforms, you'd expect to see slowdown reforms. So the petroleum sector, on the electricity sector as well, that you expect to see slowdown. So for me, I think we'll struggle it's difficult to imagine that that bill will be passed and signed into law before in this current administration.
Right.
I suspect what will happen is it might be moved onto the next set. The next set. Yeah. But I think in spite of that, there's still been announcements of investments into the oil and gas sector. So I think in Q1 this year, there was about a $9 billion announcement by Shell into Nigeria. So even though in terms of real inflows, you haven't seen that coming, but in terms of commitment, they seem to have made some commitment.
I just hope they back it up. Muiwa, thank you. I think that's all. Valentine, all the time we have?
Yes,
yeah?
it is. That's all,
cool.
folks. If you've missed any part of this broadcast today, all right, so go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Coming up next, Lagos at 7:30, we take detailed look at the stories on our newspapers this morning with our fresh analysts inside of Freshly Pressed 981. Good morning.
Business trends.
On the headlines.
No, I told you, but all the stories. It's just, I know, right? Valentine.